Is Issey Miyake Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum, a good and unique freshman's fragrance? What does it smell like? How's the performance? Is it a compliment getting kind of scent? And how am I going to rate it from 1 to 10? So we have seaweed and salt at the top, and incense and amber accord at the heart of it, and cedarwood and oak moss at the base. So let's go straight to what it smells like, and I'm also going to list the notes below. So Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum, at least to my nose, opens up in such a unique way. And to my nose, this basically opens up with an intense marine kind of freshness that is incredibly and in a way uniquely salty with a mineral-ish kind of freshness to it. The Eau de Parfum is definitely salty like the EDT, however the more mineral intense kind of freshness that it has, it definitely makes it a bit different compared to the EDT. I'm gonna link to my review of the original Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Toilette, somewhere up here and in the description below, so make sure you check that one out. But much like the EDT, its marine freshness is quite different if you compare it to other sort of a marine focus scents, and I do think it's pretty much all thanks to the use of seaweed. And the heart of the Eau de Parfum is where that intense salty freshness of it starts to soften up a bit, and it's all thanks to the incense that starts to come through in a very noticeable way. It's still very salty, but the incense with its, at least to my nose, very smooth kind of smokiness does help to sort of soften up the saltiness. And the heart of it is also where the whole thing starts to get softly woody. I'm very sensitive to incense, however this is incense done in a way that I enjoy. And the more Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum, moves into the dry down, the more I feel the less intensely fresh the whole thing gets, and instead a lot more woody. And you can definitely feel the amber accord pushing through in the dry down, which basically in combination with its woodiness makes the whole thing quite woody and ambery warm. That smooth smokiness is still there in the dry down, however I do feel that its smokiness is the most intense at the heart of it. It's definitely still a bit fresh, but here's the thing. I do feel that when Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum, goes into the dry down, it loses actually quite a bit of its freshness. And that's a key difference between the Eau de Parfum and the EDT. The EDT stays more intensely fresh throughout the opening through to the dry down. The Eau de Parfum is more like two very different sides. You have that intense fresh opening versus the less fresh but more woody and ambery warm dry down. Both have an intense dose of marine freshness and both are intensely salty. Both also have a prominent dose of woodiness, but the main twist to the Eau de Parfum is definitely the smokiness of it and the ambery warmth and shine that it has. The OG EDT has a brighter kind of intense freshness that also lasts longer, whereas the freshness of the Eau de Parfum gives way to its smokiness and its ambery warmth and shine. You can clearly tell that the Eau de Parfum is built on the foundation of the EDT, however there are also some clear differences. So let's talk about the performance of Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum. The longevity of this, at least on my skin, is extremely good, and the Eau de Parfum on my skin lasts quite a while. The projection is a very different thing, and initially right after I spray this one on, it's definitely clearly very intensely noticeable. But once it goes into the dry down, into the more woody, ambery, warm and softly smoky dry down, I do feel it actually loses quite a bit of its potency. And the dry down is where the Eau de Parfum moves into the kind of scent cloud that, at least on my skin, is a bit more intimate. But overall, for a freshie, the Eau de Parfum definitely has solid performance. So let's talk about compliments and mass appeal. I've worn this maybe 7 times. I received compliments 2 times out of those. So I'm gonna try and explain it in this way. The opening is definitely the most head-turning one. The mids is the most compliment-getting one, while the dry down is the most smoothest part of Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum. It's also the softest one. So while I do think a lot of people will most likely enjoy getting a whiff of the dry down, it's also the part of Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum, that is the hardest one to get a whiff of. And I probably feel that the OG EDT is a bit more of a compliment-getting kind of scent. So while I do feel this is a likable kind of marine scent, I do not feel it's as mass appealing as, let's say, the Acqua di Gios. But if you turn that around, this, if you compare it to the Acqua di Gios, is definitely a lot more of a head-turning kind of scent. So let's talk about the vibe of Issey Miyake Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum. This to me is definitely more of a classy and elegant kind of freshness. So let's talk about usage, so like seasons and occasions. So this is basically a unique kind of marine freshness that's quite woody, and I do feel this is a scent you can use throughout the year, but with a focus on summer. This is definitely the kind of fresh scent that shines the most summertime under the warm sun. As for occasions, like I always say, wear whatever you want whenever it makes you happy, but basically whenever you're out under the sun on a warm summer day. You could wear this to the gym. However, for the gym, I would probably spray on another kind of fresh scent. So who's Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum for? So basically, if you think you would enjoy all the things I described so far, then this is probably for you. And if you're someone who absolutely loves the EDT and think you would enjoy a bit of the EDT's saltiness and freshness, but with an added dose of smokiness and amberiness, then this is probably something you should check out. Stay away if you absolutely dislike any kind of marine fresh scents, if you absolutely dislike any kind of saltiness, and make sure you stay away if you absolutely dislike any kind of incense fragrances. But if you want a unique kind of marine fresh scent that's salty, smoky, woody and ambery, then this is probably for you. So when it comes to alternatives, the main one is definitely the OG EDT, and I do recommend to go back to the part in this video where I described some of the similarities and differences. It basically shares some of the freshness and some of the saltiness, but the Eau de Parfum definitely moves in a different and slightly warmer direction thanks to the incense and its amber warmth and shine. To me, the EDT is a brighter and fresher alternative with the kind of freshness that, at least to my nose, lasts longer. I do feel that when we're talking about marine scents and alternatives, it's pretty much impossible not to mention Acqua di Gio. Acqua di Gio Parfum smells amazing. Acqua di Gio Profondo is a scent I feel it's pretty much impossible to go wrong with. And if you want the most attractive version of Acqua di Gio, then you have the Elixir. One fragrance Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum, reminds me of, though, even though they are definitely not the same, is 15 Homme, the Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Parfum has that unique 15 Homme marine freshness with quite a prominent dose of saltiness, and the whole thing has a noticeable dose of woodiness. A key difference is that Homme Eau de Parfum has leather, which this one doesn't. So when it comes to price, I paid about $55 for 50 ml of the Eau de Parfum, which actually makes it a bit more expensive if I compare it to what I paid for the EDT. But I mean, if you compare it to other famous marine fresh scents, the price is definitely quite affordable. So what are my final thoughts on Issey Miyake Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum, and how I'm going to rate it from 1 to 10? So much like the EDT, the Eau de Parfum is definitely quite a unique scent. And even though its intense saltiness and sort of mineral-rich kind of freshness almost ripped my nose the first time I put my nose to it, I definitely like it quite a bit. But again, it's almost like if you're getting two very different scents in one. That unique, intense freshness in the opening and a bit into the dry down, and the more woody, amber, warm and smoky dry down. So it has two very different sides to it, but I think I'm gonna give it 7.5 or 8, something like that. I definitely do not regret buying the Eau de Parfum, and I do feel this adds something unique to my collection. But at the same time, there's absolutely no doubt that this is a scent that's not for everyone. So I definitely recommend that you try before you buy. Make sure you check out my review of the original Le Sel de Issey, the EDT, over there. So this is what I want to hear from you. How do you feel about Le Sel de Issey, the Eau de Parfum, and how would you rate it from 1 to 10? Let me know in the comments. Please drop a like and subscribe for more